So thanks to everyone who's joining us. I'm really thrilled to be joined by Diana Buttu, who is a lawyer and a political analyst based in Haifa, someone I've had the privilege of knowing for quite a number of years and from whom I've learned just a tremendous amount, who's shaped my own evolution on these issues a lot. So Diana, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
What is it like for you in your interactions with your Israeli Jewish friends or just people you might encounter in your life during a moment like this?
So it's been difficult to leave the house, and so I haven't. And I just where I have to, and that's it. So there just hasn't been a lot of interaction. And in the past, it's always been effectively, kind of the same, where there isn't a lot of interaction at this point in time. But Peter, let me back up and say, I rarely talk about this, but I'll mention it now. Since October of 2023, it happened before, but it just became heightened even more in October of 2023. And Eve knows this. I think there probably hasn't been a day go by where I haven't received either a death threat, a rape threat, or some sort of like nasty message. There hasn't been a day. At one point, I was doxxed, and they put the address of my son's school up. And, calls coming in at all hours of the day and night. And that stopped. Fortunately, that stopped. The calls.
Did you get any protection from the...
Oh, no. Oh, no. I would be too afraid to go to the police because I saw what happened to my friends when they did go to the police.
What happened to them?
So a friend of mine is a singer. Her name is Dalal Abu Amni. She's actually a folk singer, also a PhD. She's a neuroscientist. And her husband is an ophthalmologist. He's the head of ophthalmology at one of the hospitals here in the north in Afula. And so she wrote a post on Facebook that said, "There is no victor except God." And her point was that, why are we doing this? Like, this is just on October 7th, she wrote, "There's no victor. There are no winners except God." And so she started to get death threats and rape threats. She went to a lawyer. One lawyer said to her, "Don't go to the police." And then she said, "No, I'm going to go to the police. This is dumb. Of course, the police are there to protect me." She went to the police. The police, instead of protecting her and going after the people who were issuing the death threats, arrested her. And she was thrown in prison for 3 days.
For the post that she made?
For the post. Yeah, for the post. And the charges stayed against her. She was released after 3 days, but only after there was a big fuss. And the charges stayed against her for about 6 months. But that wasn't the only thing that happened, Peter. Then, at the time, we were going through municipal elections. Like, the municipal elections got delayed. So after she was released from prison, her neighbors, she lives in a really affluent area in Afula. Her neighbors started organizing protests in front of her house. And for 150 days, there were protests in front of her house every day. They cut off her electricity, cut off her water. The mayor ran his entire campaign on getting her kicked out of the city and getting her husband kicked out of the hospital where he is the head of ophthalmology. Her husband, 3 times, issued condemnations against Hamas, and they just kept coming after her. They renamed the street that she lives on from, it was like the name of a bird, to IDF Street, so that every time she would have to, mail a letter or whatever, that she would have to fill in IDF Street, right? Like, this is what we're talking. I mean, so the idea that I was going to go to the police is like, oh no, oh no, it's just not happening. And you know what, Peter? She left. She's now living in the US. I'm not surprised.
So
I'm not surprised.
You should feel free, obviously, not to answer this because this is a personal question, but I think you have Canadian citizenship.
I do.
And I think you spent part of your childhood in Canada.
I was born and raised there.
You were born and raised there.
Yeah.
So you have that option?
Yes.
And so why don't you follow her?
And I have the Eve option too.
Mhm. Mhm.
I always get these messages from Eve like, when are you coming? Why, why don't I follow her? For a few reasons. So one is that my family's here. My family's here, my extended family's here, my mother lives with me, and this is our home. The second reason is that I've been away from Canada for such a long time that every time I go back, I feel like it's alien to me. It's a different place, a different country. And the third reason is that, and this might be silly, and my son is probably going to hate me for it, but I feel like, this is exactly what Israel wants, and so because they want it, I'm gonna stay. You know, again, he might grow up and he's 12. He might grow up and say, yeah, whatever. But yeah, I have left at times. I've done some stints in the US at times. I've gone to Qatar at times. But, Haifa's my home.
Do you feel that you have a responsibility? Is it right to ask you to try to teach your 12-year-old not to hate Israeli Jews or Jews in general? Is that a fair thing to ask of you, given what you and he are experiencing? And if so, how do you do that, given the things that I'm sure he's been absorbing from a very, very early age?
My son is very bright, and he completely understands the difference between Zionists and non Zionists. I mean, completely. And But I have to say, it was not an easy thing to do, Peter. I mean, it was easy because I'm surrounded by friends who are amazing. It makes it easy for me to say, oh, look at so and so is Jewish, or so and so is Israeli and Jewish, so he can see that it's not all Israelis as well, right? So he can understand that it's an ideology and not a nationality. So that has been helpful. But then there's little things, Peter, like there's sirens that go off, right? Not the war sirens. Like there's sirens like for the Holocaust,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that one I can explain to him, and I do explain to him, and I explain to him, and I explain to him why, and I explain the importance of it, and I explain like all of that. But then there's another siren, which is the fallen soldier,
right, right, right.
right? And then there's the other one of, then you see the airplanes
For
on
Yom Ha'atzmaut, right? For Israeli Independence Day.
yes, yeah, the Independence Day, and so all these things, like you those are things that for when he was 4 and all he's hearing is a siren. You can't go into this long political like discussion with a child. um but now that he's 12, he understands, and he understands fully. And again, it's because I'm surrounded by people who have made it that much easier for me. But there are some times where it's like my friends who are Black have told me that there's a time where all mothers and fathers have to give the talk
Yes,
to
it's
their
famous in the US.
children.
Yes.
And I've had to give the talk to my son. Like, for example, I remember there was one year where we got a friend of ours got us these T-shirts that said Brooklyn, but it was written in Arabic, one for me and one for my son. And my son decided that he wanted to wear his Brooklyn T-shirt and walk in Haifa. Um, and and so my husband was saying, are you sure that it's okay for him to walk? My husband's American, by the way. Are you sure that American Palestinian, but American? Um, are you sure that it's okay? Like, do you think it's really safe for him to be walking with this T-shirt? And I was like, of course it's safe. La, 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 yes, right, all this. So my son wore the T-shirt and walked along the beach in Haifa. Nothing happened. A couple of looks, but nothing happened. Um, and then it was, I think, last summer. Yeah, I think it was last summer. where, but now he's grown up and he was wearing now my t-shirts, and he wanted to wear. He was wearing my t-shirt, and I said, "Oh, let's go to let's go out. We're going to go for a walk on the beach." And then he looked at me. He said, "Do you think it's okay if I wear this t-shirt?"
Mm.
Right, like he himself started to think about, what does this mean? What's it going to do? What does this say? And I said, well, it's up to you. It's like, it says Brooklyn, you know what it says, Brooklyn. But I don't know if other people are going to know what it says. And again, so it's like these things where being Palestinian means that your senses are on all the time. And you're always looking around. It's like your spidey senses, right? You're always looking around. And especially when you're in the West Bank, you have to be perfect. There isn't a slight even room to err. If you are speeding, you can get shot. If you veer, you can get shot. So it's just that you're always on edge. You're always on edge. And so does it mean that people, like, is this my responsibility? I've taken it as my responsibility, and I'm glad that my son is the way that he is.
This has been a free preview of my weekly conversation. If you'd like to hear the rest and support my work, please consider subscribing at peterbeinart.substack.com.